Welcome to Shine On You, everyone. 2.0. Here we are.
It's exciting.
Hi.
Hi.
We have arrived to the same space, the same place, same time. It's been a little bit of a journey.
Yeah, as always.
Upright, but divinely on time as well.
It feels so good. And in a new location.
I feel like it's, all new, freshened up.
Truly. There's so much life in here.
It really is. Yes, I'm taking this in, and I hope you are too. And I'm so happy that you all are listening in and that you are here with me in connection, in communication to share. Let's start with where we've been and how we came to be here.
Last time I saw you was the beginning of this year, and it feels like 10 years ago. I was thinking of that today. I was like, totally different version of us.
Truly.
Yeah. I mean, we checked back in a few months later into the year, but here we are at the end of the year in autumn, and here to share some exciting things and the vision that we've kind of co-created, but you definitely led the way on, I think, is really lighting me up.
Well, when we moved through the season 1, which I appreciate if you have listened to season 1 and you offered some of your support, and I felt that, and I'm so grateful that we get to come back and do this again and do it in a little bit more, I would say, even just the next iteration came together so naturally. You and I feel, have a connection when we communicate.
Sometimes verbally, sometimes not verbally.
Exactly. A lot of telepathic communication going on.
Yeah, finishing each other's sentences. Did you? Yeah, okay.
Got it.
Got it.
So there was this natural flow of communication that I feel we have as a shared experience. Sometimes I refer to us as cosmically connected.
I love that. It's so accurate.
It feels familiar.
It does.
Every time we communicate. And when we were wrapping up season 1 and taking some time and regrouping, I don't even know that we verbally had like a hard and fast conversation about this. It was just like a natural progression. That was my experience anyway.
Well, we always joked when I'd come on and be a guest in the past seasons. I was like, we'll just keep her here, And I was like, I'd stay. So we had this like little flirtation with the idea of it. And then as I've been working on speaking more, and I have a Phoenix Diaries going, a big devotional where I'm challenging myself to speak and do a video every single day, which has been extremely challenging, but it's so in sync with this vision as well. And it's a lot funner doing it with someone else. So.
I feel the same.
Yeah.
I feel that so much. And yes, I see you out there and showing up consistently every day, is it every day?
I'm doing it every day. I give myself one day a week that I just am like, and I choose which day it is. That's like my one caveat of like, okay, girl, you get a rest day this week. Choose well, choose wisely.
Yeah, that's some consistency I don't possess. I do not pretend to.
Good. Verified in your human design. You don't have it, and that's okay.
Yeah, for sure. So Phoenix Diaries, YouTube.
Yeah. Check it out.
Blonde Priestess, is it under?
It's under, my channel's The Blonde Priestess.
So you've been immersed in that.
Yeah, I have.
I feel like, as we were alluding to, I feel like I have lived 100 lives this year. Even just from the break of the podcast, I feel like we could just spend this whole time catching up and speaking to some of those things that you and I have been growing through. But you want to start? You want to share like anything that has just transpired even from the beginning of the year or to now? Because this year has packed a punch.
Yeah, it has. It has.
In my experience.
And it's been so personal for everyone. I think what will anchor this, what I'm going to share, would be sharing about the eclipse portal that we've been in. So a little bit of astrology. We've been since March of last year, the eclipse series, and eclipses work in series, so they activate a certain axis. So Aries Libra has been activated since March of last year. we have our final eclipse to round out that series, March of next year, 2025.
Oh, we're going.
We're
still
going.
going. Okay.
We are.
Buckle up.
Buckle up, and hopefully you've already been buckled up. The good news is that usually by now, the shit's been shooken up. I hope I'm allowed to cuss on here, by the way.
You are. It's your show, by the way.
Great.
You get to cuss if you'd
Don't
like.
tell me that. We might get a little too wild. Pull out the disco ball.
We like it. That's what the people are here for, by the way.
Okay. Say less. Jonathan's like, no, please, God, no. Bring a little disco ball. So Aries is the relationship I have with myself, the path that I'm leading, my confidence, and then Libra is the relationship we have with others, boundaries, codependency, that sort of deal, harmony, justice. So we've been in it, and that's what I meant by it's been personal. So for me, under this eclipse portal, I've been married and separated within like 2-3 months, and been navigating through healing some of the lineage that I'm now seeing showing up in my mother, who's now going through a separation. And it's just wild. Every day feels different. Every day I feel different. And that was one of the main reasons I did the Phoenix Diaries. So much is blooming out of this like pressure cooker of eclipses. I'm creating a lot and alchemizing a lot of pain and a lot of grief. And places where I look back and I see where I abandoned my integrity. And so just being gentle with myself as much as I can and just alchemizing it.
Yes.
So,
yes. And I actually wrote down, I have my little safety notes. I don't necessarily read from them, but they're there just in case.
They got your back.
They do, just in case I totally disassociate in the moment, which could happen, to be honest. But I know you all love me anyway.
We'll pull you back.
But the thing that I was going to speak to is the intensity and how that has been an opportunity to move into more or allow more spaciousness for myself because it has felt intense on a personal, interpersonal, and beyond level.
Yeah.
There's been some things that have been confronting and come up, right? So this relationship that you're speaking to as well has, I think, collectively been felt with how do we experience that intensity? Is it something that in the past, for me personally, I recognize? And again, I have a North Node Libra, South Node Aries, so I'm in the mix of it big time. You
are.
Yeah.
You really are.
That desire and programming for me to just push through. Even when we started to discuss the podcast, I feel like I could have defaulted to this, let's go, let's get it done, let's move forward, regardless of the intensity, just kind of pushing beyond that or ignoring it or thinking it doesn't require me to maybe take more space and time. So I'm really proud of us because we didn't push this.
Well,
we could have.
You led the way. I mean, the Aries in you was the leader. I mean, but that's the thing. It's the shadow of Aries is the emperor. And an emperor that's out of alignment is like an evil dictator.
Oh, okay. Like a taskmaster that my family no.
Well, I'm
known as?
Yeah, exactly.
It can be.
So the emperor wants to inspire their followers to, be a part of the kingdom.
Got it. That relationship, though, between intensity and spaciousness has been something I've really allowed myself to explore over this break.
Yeah.
And not feeling like I am, well, here's the other side. It comes from a place of almost lack where I feel like I'm missing something if I'm not pushing.
That's so relatable. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like, if we don't do this, either it's going to, be, here's the other thing, be perceived as not orderly or consistent, or there will be external expectations that are totally imaginary in my own mind.
Yep.
So I'm really proud that we gave ourselves this space to allow to be literally like guided, take a step back when we need to, let things come together. And I say that to say, this is new for me.
I'm uncomfortable. Help. It's really great when we step into the space of the unknown. It's great in the sense that you know you're doing something new, which potentially could be better. Which we know this already. We're on the path where we constantly choose to stretch ourselves, and it's that void space that not a lot of people talk about. And I love that you brought it up because it requires vulnerability, where you say, like, I'm in that weird space where I don't really know if I've made a shift for the better. I'm figuring it out. I'm feeling kind of good, kind of not good.
Right.
But I'm abandoning an old version of me that I just knew wasn't working. So we're just like stepping into the unknown.
Yes.
Here we go.
This has, I feel, landed today to feel really spacious, really aligned, you know, and I'm really mentally and physically here for it. Whereas speaking to your mentioning our very first episode, we were both going, we've talked about this before, we won't need to go into it, but we were going through it, and I feel like...
You can go see the clip if you want to. We're like a shell of ourselves.
Check back to January 2024. That was like, okay, Renee has an idea, we're moving forward, you know, at least that's the way I felt. It was like, okay, this is happening, I scheduled this, I don't want to let anybody down, I don't want to be
absolutely
unreliable or perceived as not responsible because I committed to something, and we pushed it a little.
Your vision was also very innovative, and I think you felt like, I got to get this out here now. And that's very relatable, I think, to everyone who's listening that's an entrepreneur, where you have an idea and you're like, let's go. Someone else is going to do this first.
The time is now, but it wasn't really.
Not really. And also, if they do it first, there'll still never be you. There'll never be Renee doing it. So that's why there's a million personal trainers and more getting certified every day. And there's going to be clients for them.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this has been a huge lesson to get to this point. That's what I will say to kind of button that up. But I feel like
I'm proud of you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm proud of us. I feel like we really ebbed and flowed, and I appreciate that you are a very, you allow for that sort of flexibility and flow. And I want that for everyone.
Me
to have
too.
partnership with people that are loving and come from their heart and allow for the unfolding to be,
Yeah, it's following your intuition and recognizing, what do we need to push this? Like, is it a non-negotiable, or is there room to move? Or are we moving from a fear place? So for me, when you were like, can we pause, pump brakes, go a little slower? It was like, obviously, yes, especially because when you think about, you know, I work so much with Gene Keys, and Gene Keys relates to how you create. And so if you are creating from a place of lack, everything that you create within that space will have the undertone of lack. So if you're wanting to build a business, but you build it because you're like, this is my only option, this is my make or break, then eventually it will fail. It won't exceed as much as it possibly could. So for me, I was like, heck yeah, whatever we need to do to make it nice and nourished and like beautiful soil and plant the seeds there.
Yeah, you are such a safe space. Soft space to land. I know everyone feels that knows you. That's your vibe in general.
Come
but I
sit
do
by
want
me.
you don't even have to, you just be in the proximity. But I do want to talk about Gene Keys. I know you just had a very transformative experience. Before we do that, can I just chime in on something slightly nerdy that I was learning?
Oh, yes, please, because you will always find the best gems. Best.
I want to bring this to everyone because I found this really interesting, and I don't have the author's name, but I heard a podcast. There was a gentleman who wrote a book called Super Communicator. I should probably put in the show notes his name. But he was speaking to what happens when we are communicating that I found so fascinating and so relevant to this sort of environment that you and I are in with the podcast, in being live and in person. And I do feel this translates to beyond and to the listeners, I hope anyway. But this is the concept of what is happening when two people are present having a conversation. There's a concept of neural entrainment that happens. And when I heard that word, I was like, oh, tell me more.
It's sexy.
I want to know
I
more
like
about that.
it.
Neural entrainment. So this is about literally physiologically, when you sit down and you are present in a conversation, your breath rate regulates with the other person, your heart rate, your pupils dilate to the same amount, and it allows us to have a shared experience. It's by design because, as obviously humans, we want the communication and the connection and that sense of feeling each other.
Absolutely.
So I found that so fascinating because it's what makes podcasts in general, or watching maybe something really intriguing on YouTube or something where you're seeing that human, in the moment interaction play out.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my gosh, that's what it is about this and about that I love so much, because it is that dropping in and being present and having a shared experience that is in sync.
Yeah.
So it's actually a physiological thing happening.
I mean, we've been doing it for centuries, probably.
It's like the unseen. I always like the underneath,
Of course. Yeah, you like to go to the depths.
I do.
Let's go to the murky waters.
I do. I want to
bring
know
the light
what's
there.
going on, what's happening down there.
But you know what? It's so relevant, this remembering that you're bringing to us, because we have gotten so separated since all the crazy that happened in the world. And so, being in person together is kind of rare still. When we gather together, and we have so many ways to connect now over, with our friend group, we're texting, we're Instagramming,
Socials.
Facebook messaging, and, I see you drive by occasionally. But it's those moments where we actually are here in the flesh. Our pupils are matching.
I know.
It's really special.
Well, I believe, if I'm not messing it up, it actually happens too, even if you're not in person. But there is, so like if you're having, it's about the presence. So if you're having that presence, which for our listeners, watchers, if you're having a moment and you feel that sense of being dropped in with us, that's my intention, really overall, for everything we're going to talk about and share and journey through together, is that we feel that resonance and sync part of the human experience.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I love that.
It's interesting, isn't it?
It's very cool.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. There's been podcasts I've listened to before where I'm just not on the same level as the host is, and sometimes I'm like, it's not a match. I just find it hard to listen to. And then other times I'm just like, wow. I do that a lot with Abraham Hicks. I just listen to a lot of different recordings by her, and it's just, we vibe. Our pupils are probably matching.
I would say so. Yes. So that's one interesting thing I just wanted to geek out on for a minute, because I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. So yeah, super community. And I do feel, well, I have a lot of tendency towards wanting to become and continue to develop in my own communication ability. Yeah. So I'm going to probably need to get that book. There might be more.
We'll read a page a day.
Yeah, I'll bring you more.
Well, the good thing about the Phoenix Diaries is, because I'm doing it daily, I've often run out of content, and I'm like, what the fuck am I going to talk about today? I'm like, well, the mailman came, it's just like, so I'll read pages from these books that are inspiring me, and I'm like, okay, it's my diary. So I read like a little nugget like what you just shared, and I get so many messages from people that are like, what was that book? That really resonated. It was so cool to hear you share it. So I got a lot out of that, and I'm sure.
I mean, the inspiration sometimes just drops in from the most unlikely places.
Truly. Sometimes the mailman.
Sometimes it's just literally in the mail. Yeah. So I love that this is going to give us an opportunity to go to bring to people and to speak to the things that we are not only personally learning, but going through on a personal level, have that personal touch that's relatable and hopefully helpful for people to feel in their heart, and to feel that they're a part of a community. I mean, I think if you're listening to this, you likely resonate with being maybe not the word light worker or starseed, but I feel like that is the people that we are speaking to. And, you know, sometimes that can be a little bit of a different experience than everyone else is having.
I have two things to say on that. First off, I think if you're a seeker, if you're someone
I like
who,
that.
right. And then the other thing is the thing about being a seeker and waking up and starting to see things in a new way is you become the sober person at the party. And so now you're walking around and your family and your friends are kind of like drunk and buzzed and on a different frequency. And you're like, oh, no, don't drink that. Like, we can be over here and we can do this. And, you know, we can have these kind of conversations. And it's sometimes hard to find your tribe where, you know, you don't want to hear that if you're partying. You're like, I just want to do my thing.
Yeah.
You know, stop trying to kill my buzz.
That's right.
So hopefully we can be like the sober party. That's still fun.
That's right.
Bring you some.
I love that.
Right?
I see that for us.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Let's have cacao at a dance party in the dark.
Yes, let's do it. Yeah, do you want me to tell you about how I've learned to move my hips again? Should we go there?
Yeah,
Okay.
we should, because I want to go there literally.
Yeah, you need to.
Okay.
You're going to.
Okay.
Okay, so here's the thing, y'all. So beginning of the summer, taking some time, kind of really being present with the family, kids are home, you know, daughter graduated high school, processing the feelings with that. As I mentioned, set off like I very much did at the beginning of the year with agenda. Like I'm learning I'm learning astrology from a very specific perspective, which I love. Like I could spend a lot of time and energy doing that. However, I felt because I was interested in this, I don't know if you experienced this, but I feel this pressure then to turn around and do something with it or share it or, you know,
100%.
like this has to be my new identity.
I now teach this
I now teach this.
and make money with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I spent money learning it.
Of
And I
course.
think that's a normal, you know, response. But point being, I realized after I spoke to very wise, this is a whole nother episode, but an astrologer, a Kabbalistic astrologer.
So
very
brilliant.
specific.
Very cool.
Very grounded
Human design
energy.
is built on the Kabbalah as well. Side note. So yeah, it's
he understood.
very...
Yes, Michael. Shout out Michael. I love him.
Michael.
He's literally an angel.
Oh.
He was very kindly and gently explaining to me, this is too much for you to take on in terms of readings, or, you know, you got to be careful, right? Because you just necessarily aren't built to be going hard. It's going to
feel
burn
like
you
a
out.
wave of relief. Did you cry?
I almost did, because I was like,
did.
I was like,
Which does say a
Wait.
lot, because Renee doesn't cry super easy.
Yeah, there's a few things that get me, but he was really like, he was like, you need to be gentle with how you approach this. He's like, it's fine, it's great, it's going to be a piece. But he said, as a projector, as you know, this composition in your astrology chart, you're gonna end up like basically like sabotaging your energy. And so I had this whole thing that I was planning out and moving through to create this lovely, actually it's still a lovely idea, concept to help people to understand specific pieces of their astrology chart in terms of purpose and in terms of who they are in the world stage, right?
Which are usually the biggest questions.
For sure. And I love it. And I think it's fascinating. I can geek out at it, like I said.
Yeah.
However,
Michael said no.
Michael said, hey, check yourself before you wreck yourself, because you're spending all this energy.
Yeah.
And I feel I'm getting a sense here. And again, there's specific points that speak to this, but he's like, I need you to move more from a place of, if this is not fun, if you are not lit up, if this is not creative and inspiring and intuitive in the moment, go easy.
Wow.
So
Brilliant.
here comes the hips, because here's what
Okay,
happened.
right. And the hips.
And back to the hips. So it gave me permission to slow down and realize and check in. Oh my gosh, I'm forcing this. I am literally moving through this creation of a course because it's a great idea,
Sure.
but it is not necessarily my idea to bring through. So I gave myself a break. permission to take a break and get some perspective. So I hit
Love
pause. And it was hard because
I remember. I
I was almost done with this.
Oh yeah,
I had it all mapped out.
We had a little come to the priestess moment.
We did.
And I was like, well, doesn't sound fun. And you're like, it doesn't, and it isn't. And I was like, well, I guess you have to stop.
Guess that's your answer. So I pulled back and I was like, okay, let's go way back to little Renee because we're on summer break. And what does little Renee want to do on summer break?
Yes.
She doesn't want to be building a course
In her
and
home
I do
on the
recognize,
computer.
I do like, I feel this sense again, like almost of like, I don't know what it is, but maybe a sense of like privilege in this, that I have the ability to, you know, put the brakes on and choose a different path. So I recognize that.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like exploring the things I love. So it came back to really creative pursuits. And when I was a kid, I loved to dance. And I spent a lot of my summers alone dancing to Madonna, to, you know, you name it. I'm an 80s child, right? So, but I also did dance classes and so forth. And that was when I felt very free. So I had been in the back of my mind feeling into opportunities to maybe take this to a class or something like that. But I don't know. Nothing was really like doing it for me.
Had you not really danced in a while?
I mean, I dance in my house. I dance with my kids. We turn on music, you know, like my family.
Yeah.
But not like in a class environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it was a little bit, again, of a tucked away thing. Some little bit of wounding around this, the abandonment of that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So.
And then the psoas, which wraps around the hips.
Yes.
Beautiful, powerful muscles.
Yes.
That holds trauma, specifically.
Exactly.
Yeah. Especially as women, it can hold sexual trauma, past relationships. I mean, men as well.
Generational stuff, too.
That's it. Yeah.
Right.
So there's that.
Yes.
Okay.
And I had even had some lovely guidance at points where people were like, you need to dance. Like,
And
go
bring
dance.
your tissues.
Yeah, like get it, like go. And I was waiting and holding out. So enter turn up classes. Now you all can look up turn up on your own.
Yeah.
It's like being in a club with your friends and also some direction, but not a lot. Not a lot. You just kind of get in there and go for it. So I saw that this gym near my house had turn up classes, and I was like, wait a minute, this is it. This is the invitation.
You felt it.
Here it is.
You could just feel it.
I loved it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go for it.
Yeah.
And I've learned a lot in consistently showing up over the past, I don't know how many months, but I don't know. It literally was like, here's the thing. I don't really like to sweat. I don't go out looking to sweat. Okay. I don't jog. I don't like, you know, but I sweat in there.
Yeah.
And I love it. So that's a good sign. So
wow.
you know you're like,
okay, yeah.
You know, good things are happening.
Yeah, it's something you're worth, like, it's worth your fluids coming out.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
any projector that's listening will understand what you just said.
Yeah.
They don't seek to sweat.
I'm not going hard, y'all. Like, that's not
like,
me.
is there a shortcut? Let's walk that path.
I like some strength training. I like some yoga, you know.
But with like a high industrial fan going,
I mean,
you know.
There's a lot of recovery. I like more of a restorative beat. So this was new. And I have to say, like, I just kind of got in there and went for it.
Aww.
As was the room, as was the vibe. And I am like an addict now. I can't. I told you, I was like, hey, can we push the podcast? I gotta go dance. And so now
she did. She's like, I'm gonna be a little bit late. Is that okay? And here's my reason why.
I will be better for it.
She did, and I knew that, and I recognized that because I'd be the same if it was like roller skating, horseback riding, all that. Totally.
So okay, the movement of the hips,
freedom,
has unlocked a remembrance that I tucked away a long time ago and thought, oh, I don't need to do that. That's not, you know, we start to develop these, you know, perceptions of ourselves and, you know, oh, I feel silly, or that's ridiculous,
age appropriate,
right?
or
Right. Yeah. So all that out the
things.
window, and I just have this reconnection, and it's interesting because I've seen it come up in other places and people now, you know, classes on literally shaking your hips, literally moving your body
Yes.
in a way that is releasing
Yeah.
and letting go
That's
and
right.
being fiery and feminine. And that's the balance that these classes bring. And I am super grateful to Haley. I'll give her a shout out because she leads a room like nobody's business. And she's someone who is very clear, a clear channel. And, you know,
I mean,
we're here for it.
Yeah, it takes a very special person to be able to build a safe space like that, but then one that also feels fun.
Yeah.
Because sometimes a safe space can feel a little bit serious, you know? So that says a lot about how she leads and how she must be doing her soul work.
Yeah.
Because it's natural when you're doing it that way.
Yeah, she's got range. I love her. She's a breathwork facilitator as well. So look, I'm learning to breathe as well, y'all. So it's
Very
over
good.
for you bitches when I learn to breathe and shake my hips. I mean, honestly.
Truly. You're going to be on the table next episode. Just like, hang on, shake, break, baby. I'll join you. You know I will.
I know you will.
Okay.
I know you will. So that's what I've been up to. I've been doing art, getting over being a beginner, so to speak, and going through, you know, some learning on that.
It feels very Venetian. It feels like you brought some of the Libra in, right? The Libra is just like, what is pleasurable? What is playful? What serves no ROI? And Aries is like, what?
Yeah, it's a little.
We don't have time for that. And Libra's like, we will make time. So it's the beautiful.
I've been working with it.
Yeah.
In
Beautiful.
real time. So tell us, okay, what, you can speak to anything you want. I'm giving you the floor, girl.
Okay.
Like, I brought everyone up to speed now
With where Renee is.
with where I'm at, leaving nothing to the imagination.
Oh, no, there's plenty. I think it would be beautiful to share a little bit about my Gene Key journey. I just got back from Colorado.
Break it down.
Yeah, I went to Boulder. I love Colorado so much. It's a really special place in my heart. Very much so power place, full of portals. And even people that don't believe in portals or don't understand the language around energy and channeling and spirits go there and they're like, I feel something. That's how you know.
Agreed.
Right. We've had some awesome times there together too. So I went specifically to see one of my teachers. One of my visions this year was to meet my teachers before they die. I know it sounds kind of morbid, but when you work in the lost arts like astrology and the Kabbalah and the I Ching, a lot of times your masters are no longer here and you're just reading their books or listening to their students teach you. So I've been on a quest, and we spoke about it last episode about cacao and meeting some of the teachers and founders there. And so Richard Rudd is the founder of the Gene Keys, and he is British, and so he doesn't often come over here to speak to the States. So it was really beautiful that he was also partnering with Gaia and came and did a 2-day intensive. Intensive is kind of a strong word, but it was intense. And I loved it. And he taught about the entire Gene Keys system, which I had already been taking clients in Gene Keys. I've went through a lot of the courses online. I just wanted to meet him and be in his presence. And so one of the things that really stood out while we were there was his presence. When you look at the 64 gene keys, and they correspond to our DNA codons, so they're all within us. You can run your profile and see you may have an 11, a 33, all of these things, and I have a 20 and a 34. But we have all of them within us because we all share DNA, just in different combinations. So when you are in the presence of Richard, it was almost like being in the presence of the highest expression of all those gene keys. He calls them the cities. And the cities are, in Sanskrit, it means like the highest expression. It's almost like a Buddhic state. So, for example, my life's work key is the 20. And so he breaks it down into a shadow, a gift, and a city. And the shadow is superficiality. It's where I seem to be here, but I'm not here because I'm lost in the mind. It's kind of like a fly, busy, busy, busy. The gift is self-assuredness, which is just confident and trusting myself to handle whatever this moment might bring. Because oftentimes when we go into superficiality, I'm afraid of something. So it might be, I don't know what you're going to ask me next, and I might look stupid on the camera, right? That thought will take me away from you. So the self-assuredness is whatever Renee has for me, I'm ready for. I have all that I need within me. And then the highest expression is presence. And that is what I really got to see in Richard in the flesh. I went up to the mic and asked him a question, and when he looked at me, I could just feel like I was being fully seen beyond all this stuff, but just as a heart, as a soul. It's something that I will forever remember, and I hope I can bring to every room I walk into. It brings a tear to my eye. It's so special. The gift of being present with someone. It's worth
it
more
truly
than
sees you.
worth more than anything to me.
What did that moment mean to you?
Oh, I mean, it's invaluable. That's what it showed me. I could give you a bunch of money. I could give you a car, I could give you all these words of affirmation. But if I'm present with you and you really need me, you'll remember that for forever.
That's right.
Right? So in that one moment, before he even answered the question that I had asked, he taught me. And I was like, this is what a great teacher does. Their essence teaches you, not anything they say necessarily or where or system they've created. So it was profound being in his presence and being in that energy and deepening my understanding of the gene keys.
Yes, yes. And gene keys, I have dabbled in. I've had a reading. I have the book, I think. I have.
Oh, wow.
I watched actually the first 2 sessions of his talk at Gaia.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Cool.
I mean, the depth and it feels to me, and again, I'm just literally like scratch the surface, so I don't pretend to know a lot, but
Yeah.
it feels very complex. But is that your experience, or do you feel it's actually more simple than people maybe perceive it to be?
I love those 2 words you used. Richard's life's work consists of the complexity, and then the highest expression is simplicity.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Maybe I heard that. And
The full
just
spectrum.
came through.
Well, one thing Richard says, he says, if you're currently studying astrology or if you're currently studying human design, don't even attempt the gene keys. All of those systems require your devotion, your full presence. And so it is a system that requires, like a relationship. You can't, we don't have multiple partners, most of us. There's a lot of fucking work.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? There's a lot of attention everybody needs. So let's just focus on one and do that really, really, really well.
Yeah.
So yes, the gene keys are deep. They're so deep. And the difference between gene keys and human design, because I have a human design background, is human design is like the yang. It's like the practical. People that come in for a human design session are ready to get some shit fixed within that 2-hour session.
Yeah.
And we do. And we get in there and we roll up our sleeves, and it's very boom, 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 solution oriented and strategies. Whereas gene keys is the yin. So as we know, as women, we need space. We need time to ebb and flow. You never know who you're going to get every single day. I mean, a yin practice requires contemplation. So it needs room to breathe, the gene keys. And that's been one thing since I've contemplated the gene keys. It's helped me drop into a deeper level of femininity with myself, which I relate a lot to that Aries boom, boom, boom energy you have too. I have a Aries in Venus and Aries. So yeah. Yeah. It's brought in so much softness.
So I'm saying this for myself. It's not a race to understand. It's more
Let it breathe.
Come back. Let it breathe.
Let
That's
it
so
breathe.
beautiful.
It really is. And when you think about devouring all 64 gene keys, where are you going to go after that?
Yeah. Right.
And I say that, I approached it that way. I was like, oh my God, this book is like huge and I got to get in here. And then as soon as you get in there, you're like, oh, I could never do this. I have to take this bite by bite. And it's beautiful. It humbles you in that way.
What else from the weekend stood out to you as memorable?
I choose a word every year, and I stamp it on a little bracelet, and I wear it throughout the year. And then I get shown or told or a download, a little whisper from spirit to leave it somewhere, leave an offering. So the word I chose this year was devotion. And it was very much so in the wake of my separation and in the remembering of who I am and what I'm here to do in this world, and be in relationships that allow me to do that and not disallow me to do that. And so devotion has been working with me and through me. And while I was walking the labyrinth on Gaia campus, Gaia is such an incredible space. They have a beautiful like desert rock labyrinth that's huge out next to the pond on their grounds there. And of course you're in Colorado and it's just gorgeous.
So clear.
So clear. You could breathe.
Yeah.
Well, sort of. It's like 5,000 elevation. Yeah. So you're like, we're like below sea level here. So I was like, but when I walked through the labyrinth, I got a very clear download that it was time to leave my word. And as I was in the center, and there's a beautiful center stone that you kind of honor the directions and pray at, and, give an offering or ask for something. And as I looked up and I received the download, and I was kind of like, are you sure? Because I like my bracelet. I get very attached to them.
You're like, it's only October. I'm going to need
that
this.
too. We got some.
Can I come back in December?
Pick it back up. Like, I might get struck by lightning if I do that. If anyone touches that bracelet, you'll be struck. And so as I kind of like came out of prayer, and it was like, we're sure the word's in you. You don't need that reminder. Let it breathe through you. Richard was right there, sitting on like the balcony on his lunch break.
Oh, really?
And was just like in the sun, like a Buddha.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, okay, it's like, this is some kind of sign. Like, he's right there. All the people are like unaware that he's
like
there.
Raises his glass to you, tips his hat. He's like, it's time. Drop your word.
In my mind, that's how it happened. He looked at me and told me. And so I was like, okay, Richard, I sound like such a fangirl, but he's like the one.
Oh my gosh, he's such a very intellectual, grounded man, though. Like,
yeah, men should check him out.
He is very grounded. I really enjoy listening to him. His voice is soothing.
Yep.
He's confident, but not
very confident.
but so like humble
and playful.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, I think men should check him out and be more like that.
It's interesting.
Yeah, and so I left my word there, and that was a very important moment for me, when I leave my words, and I know it'll be there. So I'll get to go back and I'll see it there.
Right.
And I've done that with some of my other words before. They're all over the world. My little bracelets. Yeah.
I love that. That's
Me
like
too.
a nice little ritual for sure. Oh, yeah. I love Gaia. I love the experience of being there. Definitely missing it's been over a year since we were there together.
Oh
and I do feel right now, I've got some things that are working through me that I am being disciplined about and not making quick, rash decisions. And that's been it's been a little bit of a Big Daddy Saturn year for me. I've had a lot of like, hey, time to check yourself.
Oh, yeah.
On these,
Yes.
practical matters, if you will. So
I feel you on that.
It didn't happen this year to go back, but I would definitely, I've ended up in Boulder several times in different iterations of life where I'm like, oh, I love it there.
Oh, totally. We need to get some property out there, do retreats.
Serious.
That's the vision.
Something special happening in that area. And then, the experience of being at that campus and
they've done it so well.
And that energy.
It's one of those events where as soon as you walk through the door, even the security guards are on the same level. Everybody's just like, welcome. Can we hold your chai tea while we scan you for guns? And I'm like,
this is the world we live in.
Yeah. I'm like, no problem. Thank you. I appreciate the smile and the kindness.
Yes.
And I'm not packing and carrying.
Right.
Into a Gaia call.
That's correct. Promise you that. Well, I love that we have come together and started this experience together and, let the agendas sort of dissolve like what's that meme? Like cotton candy in the rain. I think that's so funny.
It's very poetic.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
But it's so true. I feel like that's been part of the path this year, has been just letting go of the hard and fast, softening, getting into our hearts. I mean, collectively right now we have a lot of material that is bringing us back to our hearts. And as difficult as it is to witness in our human, it's also beautiful, and it also gives us the chance to really remember that, you know, that sense of humanity and literally at the end of the day that, you know, coming from our heart is where it's at, and better or worse. So
absolutely.
Yeah, it is a charged time at the time of recording. You know, a lot of people have been through a lot, and I definitely feel that on many levels, and have been reminded this week that I'll offer this because it might be relevant to someone else's experience, but I'm not here necessarily, I don't do any good to anyone if I'm in my head and in story and in a up in the fray, right? I am here to ground this through my body. I worked with Heather this week at the Priestess Collective. I love Heather so much, Heather Gordy.
Heather Gordy, we love you.
I know, every time. I love
Special
her.
being.
Seriously. And she reminded me that my purpose, part of my work is to continue to ground into the earth and into the earth star chakra, and to continue to let all the difficult things that are happening flow through me, and through that, how that is an offering. And so that's been very helpful.
Gosh, that's beautiful.
It was profound. It was like, it really helped me. In fact, I said, look, Heather, I'm going to cancel my therapist and start coming. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. Because truly, look, I love talk therapy for some things, and I've done it on and off a lot. But you kind of need to be with somebody that is going to take a multidimensional approach if you are
there. If that's where you're resonating. And she does that. And she holds space in such a wise, profound way. And she can go into, she's helped me through a lot. So I said, I was like, I'll be back. Just put me on a regular rotation here, because it helps so much. Me and her do about I don't know why it's only this much, but I asked her that the other time, but like we do, twice a year check-in, and it ends up always being around like the equinoxes. It's really fascinating. And the last little tune-up she gave me was very, very impactful. And I think that's her magic as a manifester too, especially us being, you and I both are very future-oriented beings.
Busy.
Busy, but we're also like, where's this going? Where is this leading? What's happening? What's our role? And how do we bring our family and our tribe? So we're like always looking for breadcrumbs of like, where is things heading? So a manifestor naturally has that sight. And so Heather, being such a beautiful manifestor, has that way of just being like, just go ahead and channel that energy into the earth. And you're like, of course.
It's a gentle reminder, because I think that there are these practices that support us, right? And I mean, they kind of, for me, rotate. Like, I'm not a super consistent person when it comes to doing the same things every day. I get bored or
uninspired.
Or it's just not the right thing for the day. But really that reminder to plug in and plant on yourself on the ground and literally give it back. And how supportive that is. I was like, that's exactly what I need to know right now. Thank you very much.
Well, you know what that sparked for me too is that we're having so many solar flares right now. That's all science. That's not anything spiritual to do with that. That's our sun is actually flaring more than it ever has before, more than any generation of human that we've known has had to experience. Very, very quickly in rapid succession. So our bodies are literally physically trying to learn how to assimilate more light in our cells. And I love thinking about that. Like, I've been having a really intense week. I was telling Jonathan, and I was like, it's just been it's just been really, really intense. And it's just reminded me that I have to like let my cells expand and let more light come in. And that visual is really bringing me a little bit more hope instead of I'm a victim to the environment or a victim of the circumstances.
Yeah. And not saying that they're not real, and heavy and a lot, for sure. But it felt very, I think she knew that I needed something like practical too. Like, okay, this is where to put your energy right now.
Yes.
I kind of tend to go two ways, like either just like sort of disassociate, like I just can't process, can't take it on, like, or I feel it all, and I feel it all so deeply. I feel collective things. I feel other people's things way more than I feel my own. Yeah. And in fact, that was funny. The last therapy appointment I did have, she's like, let's work on feeling feelings and not thinking feelings. I'm like, okay, I guess if we have to.
If we have to.
I'm really good at thinking about them, though.
Yeah. You're like, why can't we just leave it there?
Right. But then the collective things do get me right in the heart.
Yes.
Especially when it has to do with, obviously humans, but also animals. Oh, gosh.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you want to see me break into full tears? Animals. I don't know.
I get it.
It's like...
I get it. They're so pure and innocent. They're light beings. They don't deserve it.
It's so hard.
We don't deserve them sometimes.
Never-ending story fucked me up when I was a kid, and I've never recovered.
Anything where an animal's not being treated well is like deal breaker for me.
Really hard. So
I have to be careful what I watch now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yes.
I know, and I do appreciate that for sure. So this is if you're getting a sense of all of this, what this is going to be like here. We're going to definitely be, I think, up for being transparent and also offering some of the things, that we're each learning, and then giving voice to that if it's helpful for someone to know about. Perhaps that triggers something in them where they're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Maybe I can go back to that, or maybe that's supportive of me. So really, we're here together to serve and to help.
Yep. Well, and I think you had mentioned this before to me, and it really landed, as well as you and I both work in similar ways, that when there's trouble afoot, we get to the bottom of it and we gain tools. And I've come to realize not a lot of people are like that. And so we have a huge well of tools to share. And so through sharing our personal stories and hopefully providing some hope and light, we also can provide some tools where if you are resonating, if you are going through some of this kind of stuff, you can get through it. And I know that knowing the weather, knowing the astrological weather, knowing the gene keys, knowing your human design, those are all tools that I adore working with, because they help give me an understanding of myself, but then an understanding of the currents of the collective. So I can understand, this week is the shadow of unease. So there's no wonder you're feeling extra sensitive to some of those things.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being here to anchor that in for us.
Happy to.
And I am really excited. I'm so grateful that this has come to be.
Me too. Feels like a long time coming.
We took our time.
We did. Back to that.
Which is not normal for us. So it does feel like a lot of buildup. But here we are. In the moment. So thank you all for listening and watching today. And we're excited to come back next time and
talk about something totally different.
Yeah, talk about something totally different. Exactly. I know we have some fun things that we're going to get into. So appreciate you.
Oh, thanks, babe.
Thank you.